Nice. Well, good morning, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Goddamn. I know it's early, but come on, man. We can, make some differences.
Raise it up.
Yeah. All right, here we go. This is John Carras, one of my co-founders for AKOIN, and my baby girl, Lynn Liss. She's like the excitement. She is the energy. She's the one that got me hyped this morning. So.
I will get this energy up.
It
will happen.
So, John, you can make the announcement.
Sure. So we're here to talk about AKOIN most particularly, which is our blockchain-driven cryptocurrency solution to help entrepreneurs rise and thus create a bunch of social impact in Africa and rising economies, India, Southeast Asia. Initial focus is very much on tools for entrepreneurship and education, particularly, again, focused on Africa. Part of why we care so much about that is that Akon is originally from Senegal, and in Africa, as many of you know, there are 54 countries, 54 governments, 54 currencies, lots of functionalities and things that are perhaps less functional. So we're looking to help people have tools to create a brighter future. That's what we're doing.
And I think we wanted to open it up to questions so we can give you all the good, juicy stuff. Only you will know. You'll be the first to know.
But before we go on to questions, I will just give you a little bit of the vision and how AKOIN was created and why we created AKOIN. Ultimately, because of the fact that Africa is in a position where the development of it is essential. And one thing about Africa is a white, clean slate. We can literally start from scratch and rebuild Africa in a way that all the development countries hasn't, and also utilize that as a way of not making the same mistakes that the development countries did as they were building. Because as you know, everyone now is going into renewable, and everything was basically built on fossil fuel, gas, oil, creating all this climate differences and changes and so on and so forth. And as you also know, is that majority of the elements that's being used to develop a lot of these major, developed countries are all coming from minerals from the ground in Africa. So we wanted to be able to utilize a way to where Africa can now be able to benefit from its own resources, utilizing the youth of the country, which, as you know, 65% of Africa's population is under 21, and we're almost at 1.3 billion people in Africa right now. So our main focus is to focus on that young population, innovate them, create entrepreneurs within that circle, and find ways to give them all the tools that they need to build the country forward, and utilizing AKOIN, which will be the primary currency if we can help it for the next 20, 30, and beyond years, to be able to bring the country together with one currency eventually is the dream.
And I'll just add, because now you got me excited to talk about things. When Akon came to us and had this vision about launching a currency for Africa and building out an ecosystem where everybody could build their business and we could provide them tools and services to do just that. That includes, as you say, bringing tools and services to entrepreneurs so they can become the business and owners and sustainable futures that they want, all the way to even building their own app on the platform. So it's really exciting to imagine any storefront you have, anything that you want to put online, anything that you want to monetize, and you're going to be receiving AKOIN, so trading in out of AKOIN for that. We're even letting people come and build their own apps or dApps on the platform, which is exciting. So we are gung-ho to really bring up these entrepreneurs in Africa and give them everything they need to succeed.
Nice.
So if anybody has a question, just want to raise your hand. My question, hello, my name is Edgar from Brazil, all universities, and I know that your main focus is in Africa, but it's a great opportunity and marketing in others developing countries as well as Brazil, India, and others. Do you plan to expand worldwide in a few years?
Absolutely. The AKOIN platform itself is a worldwide platform, but we just figured that the concentrated market is going to definitely be Africa, because I always believe that once Africa is set up, it can easily work anywhere else, because Africa right now is the most challenging place and space to be able to, really utilize a technology of this sort. So being that we can conquer Africa with this technology, you can really copy and paste it anywhere else with the same similar situations and circumstances.
It's usable in any language. Usable in any language, so we're expanding out from the core.
Yeah.
My question is, my name is Max from BTCTV. Regarding, everybody heard about Libra from Facebook. So what is your difference between you and Libra? Your project, why it is better from comparing to from Facebook?
We don't compare ourselves to Libra. Don't know what Libra will or won't be ultimately. There's lots of stuff written and talked about. We're very focused on being the last mile solution. There's a great article you can read about our alignment with BitMinutes and a trusted area network pool of folks on the ground in Africa that'll help show some differentiation. But we don't know what Libra ultimately will be. I don't think anyone does, not even Mark Zuckerberg. They're still figuring it out. They're not launched, and we're not competitive with them. We're a solution that is its own independent solution. So again, we're not competitive with anybody. Our goal is to help entrepreneurs rise, not beat the next guy. Different philosophy.
Something to add though, and you'll read this in the article, once we realized, as John said, to reach the last mile, how do you do that? The ability to trade AKOIN, and this is our first use case, so we are beta testing our MVP, our minimal viable product, and the first use case that people are testing now is to trade from AKOIN into minutes, right? Minutes are really valuable currency, store value in Africa, and so that last mile is us saying you can hold AKOIN, or if you need to get into the local market, vendors there accept prepaid minutes for tradable goods and services already. So it's one way that we can both get it into the local economy easily, trade it into fiat, and then also use those minutes to actually trade into AKOIN, because one of the gaps is how do you get into cryptocurrency? You know, a lot of these users in Africa don't maybe have an ID that they can use, or they don't have a bank account, right? So that whole banking the unbanked model, that's our approach to actually getting that last mile achieved.
And again, not competitive with Libra or anybody else. It's an alternative solution that we've studied an awful lot of what's needed as we've gone to build. So again, that instant ability to transfer internally between cryptocurrencies, that store of value that is prepaid sell minutes that are used for many transactions in Africa, and fiat currencies. Just the ability to freely go between those is a huge opportunity for folks.
And I think in a big way, it's very clear that Africa's future solution is going to be created by Africans. Mainly because I think a lot of big Fortune 500 companies and big huge names of technology hubs, they don't really know Africa. They've never been there. They don't understand how people live, how people think, and more than anything, there's no connection. So in order to make a huge impact in the people's lives, you got to be a part of that life. You got to understand what that is. And everyone's looking for solutions, but no one spent time there. No one knows the challenges. No one really understands how to translate what they're dealing with into what their future needs to become. And most times you just watch from a distance, knowing they're making the right decision, but clearly you try to correct from an informational standpoint, but people go by what they consider to be data. And data only curates digitally. It doesn't curate life. It doesn't curate real-time experiences. And I think this is going to be the difference, because our platform is built around the people that actually have to use it, not just a digital technology that you think can just work in a specific area because it might have worked in the US or anywhere else. So it's going to be a big difference when it comes to it. But like John said, we're just here to create a solution. It's not a race to us who gets to the finish line first. My goal is to rebuild Africa in the way that I would like to see it happen, and utilizing everything around me and all the resources to it.
And for us, part of our testing and beta testing is coming through a pool of 200 plus ambassadors that have reached out to us and believe in the mission of what we're doing. So our ability to test on the ground is not a hypothetical thing in the lab. It's real-time testing on the ground in Africa and some other rising economies with average people that are younger or older, that are entrepreneurs or just regular folks that want a different and better life. So we're getting real-time information from a broader pool of people actually on the ground.
Hi, my name is Serene. I'm from Scotland, from Podcast Women. My question is that we've seen various currencies, cryptocurrencies, rise and fall. They're seasonal, some of them. We've seen Ripple a few years ago rise during Christmas and then it really crashed down. And I appreciate the fact that you are people focused, but what have you guys got in place in terms of stabilizing that currency how are you going to look at that?
Well, we're not building a stable currency. The way that the currency will be stabilized is there are multiple stable coins on our platform as a store of value that users can go from fiat currency to prepaid minutes to, whether Tether or a gold-backed solution. The way that our business is built is it's driven by utilization. We are definitely a utility coin, and the circulation within the system and the limited number of tokens will maintain its store of value. That, along with being super transparent about the entity's resources and those growing, because our mission is to be incredibly transparent and for people in Africa to know we're not going anywhere. We're there for good. We will be there whether we have to raise more money and put it into the system, keep circulating within the system, have our DApp partners both hold and use tokens, so all of the key DApp partners have to buy in and hold a certain number of tokens. And we've made some early deals with just regular businesses that do business in Africa that are publicly traded companies where they've exchanged their shares of stock regulated on stock exchanges, whether in New York, Canada, UK, for our tokens because they believe in it and want to hold them and help build this future. So that's how we're maintaining it. But we're not some investment scheme where it's all hypothetically based on whether investors think it's good or bad. We're about people being able to use this. And again, having a limited supply circulating within the system will hopefully maintain its value, and we have hedging strategies beyond that and everything else.
And the fact that you can, again, move directly into a prepaid minute and top up your phone bill, and those minutes hold value, right? Those are pretty stable in Africa generally, so it's another key way that we actually keep the currency not stable, as John correctly states, but we don't want it to be hugely volatile and all the fears that people have when they come to cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, this is not a speculative thing. This is very much a utility coin. It's meant to be used day in and day out on the ground, and that's already happening in our beta testing. But once it happens, we've had so many reach outs of excitement about it that once we've officially launched, we think that there will be a great pathway to adoption.
Hi, Akon. I'm Ryan here from the Sunday Business Post in Ireland. Obviously, you're best known as a musician, but sorry, I was coming from everywhere there. You see, I'm surround sound. So obviously, you're best known as a musician. So I'm just wondering what attracted you to this as the way to do the project you want to do. That you wanted to decide, I'll go to cryptocurrency as opposed to some other form of technology.
Well, it's interesting because crypto came in by accident the same way energy came in by accident. It all stemmed through being a musician. You know, you start becoming hugely successful, you start to travel, and then you start visiting home, and then you start to realize how many things could be changed or how many things that you can impact to create change. And that's how it all started. You know, it started with me going back to the house. After 25 years of not being in that same neighborhood, you come back and it looks exactly the same wells, same kerosene and lamps, and same grandmother in the same place, and she doesn't want to move, you know, so it's to the point where it's like, okay, something has to be done about it. So it went from creating energy solution to realizing, wow, this is something that can now lead into a bigger impact. And this all really stemmed from me having basic francs. They call it CFA, which is Senegalese dollars that's printed by French. Now, the French printed this money. That's why it's called the French. And I took the money out of Senegal and flew into Paris. When I got to Paris, I was trying to exchange my francs. Mind you, this money is made by the French. And exchange it for euros. And they told me they don't accept it. I'm like, what the? You guys made this money. You mean to tell me? You mean to tell me the money you made for us has no value in the country that made it? Okay, now we have to do something serious about this. And that's when I was like, okay, John, I need your help. When we get to it was like now putting together a team to create our own currency that's going to really work for the future, for people in Africa.
What's really cool, actually, when I think about our atomic swaps, it's a proprietary feature that's within our ecosystem. And the ability, as John's been suggesting, to go in and out of the currencies, other cryptocurrencies from our DApp partners on the platform into the local market. The atomic swap piece was really cool, important for us. because many of those alternative currencies from other DApp partners aren't on an exchange. And so with this atomic swap technology, we're able to, we say click, click, the ability to quickly move in and out of these currencies. So what you saw in the real world, we've basically emulated that ease of transition between those currencies real time without having to go to a major exchange to do it. So we're not going to have that problem again.
And beyond cryptocurrencies, again, it'll do dollar, euro, pound, RMB, a whole bunch of cryptocurrencies, both the big ones that are on exchanges, you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc., and then those from our DApp partners, and of course the prepaid sell minutes. So it's really creating financial inclusion, helping to bank the unbanked, and that last mile piece is something that's really been missing across the cryptocurrency universe. And we're super proud of our tech team and what they've been able to build. It's out there being tested right now. Super exciting.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah. Hello.
I thought that was his voice.
The voice is here. it's just me.
Okay.
I'm Jennifer from Vox Africa. So, Namada for Akon. Okay, so have you got the instant, for example, use the technology Akon in Africa, in country or in city?
Yeah, we're in beta testing right now as we speak. It's being used in Africa. We're getting all the bugs out, whatever situation that we need to have information for to make sure that it's properly being communicated on the platform before we launch it. Yeah.
And also, sounds better.
That sounds more like you.
Fantastic. Well, we just talked here with so in front of me, past, present. I would like to talk present to future.
Yeah.
What would be, if you are envisioning yourself, the outcome or the long-term outcome that you would like to actually reach? Would that be like to replace the CFA, to work side by side with the government, to create like something that will be across the country in specific countries? What will be your views on that?
Well, that's actually a great question. I think the future will really determine that, and I think the people ultimately are the ones that will decide. We just want to be able to create a mechanism that allows them to be able to move, trade, live on an equally balanced rate, and utilize today's technology to do so. I think, but we're probably going to face the same challenges that Bitcoin did when it first came in, and we're kind of prepared for that because ultimately this is a game changer, and it is pretty disruptive when it comes to currencies within already governed territory. But I think when you create solutions that allow people to be able to navigate within the trading system a lot simpler, a lot easier, and a lot not only safer but more trusting, it's going to get adapted really quick. So the long term, if I could have it my way, I would like for it to be the only currency in Africa, so that way it's going to be properly regulated. And through the blockchain system, you get the transparency, the information, and you get the control as to how it goes, and you get the information to where your money's going, who it's going to, and follow the trend and the trail all the way out to the end, you know. And I think transparency has always been key when it came to money. People just want to know what it really is. You know, there's always scammers, there's always information that's not being told when it comes to money, and that creates conflict. And I think a lot of the information that's not being told is creating the conflict in Africa currently today with how things are governed, because a lot of the people there don't know what's happening, where their dollars are going, who is going to, and even the investors that come into the country, half them don't invest back into the country. So you never really know how that investment plays, how much money was put into invest, and how much money is made that comes back to the country to help develop. So I think under the blockchain system, it gives us that information, and it just gives people the thought and the information that they're fighting for currently today. That could make differences and changes. So I think it's going to be a very disruptive path. We don't really quite know where it's going. We are prepared for whatever happens, but not quite prepared because we know it's going to be something big. I'm just glad I'm famous, so I can just jump in front of television. You get scared, just go to CNN, you know. But it is going to be something that we will definitely, you know, prepare for, because it's going to be a huge game changer for Africa for sure.
There's some piece of this that also shows how quickly things can be adapted. If you look at what happened with M-Pesa as a payment solution, purely just a payment solution in Africa, and how quickly that was adapted. We think that people with these additional functionalities will gravitate towards it, and again, once there's a a movement that becomes a mission, it's hard for government to get too far in the way of it, but we'll see how that goes.
And to add to the adoption point we're making here, it is about the youth, right? We talk so much about the youth in Africa have multiple mobile phones. They just leapfrog. They never even got a desktop. They move around. Their business is mobile. They are, in Africa, some of the highest users of cryptocurrency. And I always take it back to my kids, if you have kids. They don't want paper money. They do everything online. If they can have Amazon points, they can have everything on a card. They just want to do everything digitally. So I know you were part of the wave of digitizing music. This is just digitizing currency. I mean, that is what's going to happen. So in terms of adoption, that's obvious.
I think we have time for one last question.
Hi, down on the left. My name is Kieran. I'm from Malaysia, representing the Pangean. Just on the fact of disruptive coin to the governments of Africa. I want to ask, have you been in conversation with the governments of Africa? And if so, what are their sentiment towards AKOIN?
Actually, I haven't had not one conversation with them relating to AKOIN. Because I don't think it's a governmental issue yet. I don't even think it's a conversation worth having right now, because we're still in development. And ultimately, I'm trying to keep it in a way to where the people becomes that voice. I just want to be able to provide the tool, provide the platform, and then from there, a smart leader will know how to utilize that, and what that entails for his group of people. Because I clearly, if I was the president, I wouldn't even think twice to adapt it. Because it helps me. It actually makes it better for government. It actually creates database that they don't have even existing. Even all the way down to census, you get to know how many citizens is in your country, how they're spending the money, where they're spending the money. It just gives you so much information to even govern better. So these are kind of things that just a smart leader would have to understand. You can't go to an ignorant leader and try to explain to him something that's good for him. So you almost just have to let nature, take its course and allow the people to really justify the importance of something like this in their community.
And I have always, when I met Akon and really understood what he accomplished with Akon Letting Africa, one of the keys I saw there is that the government saw that you were bringing more business into the economy. So this is a winning story, and it was really important when we all came together, knowing that he had that access, that relationship, but that story with the government, with Africa, that this would be a building, a rising up for the economies there. So I thought that was also really key to the story.
One other thing to add, again, in a continent where much of the economic activity happens through and with prepaid settlements and not fiat currency, basically a parallel economy, we're just adding more functionality to it, and one that is transparent and has the ledger system, so they'll be able to track, if they wanted to, who did what, when, and how. Helps them with taxes, helps them with census, helps them with inclusion. But again, remember, the continent is very much using a parallel economy with the prepaid settlement, and much of the transactions are done there. Most people don't have bank accounts. So we fit right into that mold, and giving people more tools creates more prosperity, helps the continent rise, builds infrastructure, etc. So we believe we'll actually have a lot of good government support.
Akon, Lynn, John, thanks very much.
Thank you all.